Hello everyone out there. Welcome to our second in the series of exploring and understanding the mutation that is happening in these stormy next 6 years ahead, and how we can prepare our vessels, our bodies, for that big change that is upon us already. So I'm Alison and I'm a Goddess Asteroid astrologer and Gene Keys guide, and I live in Yorkshire in England. And I have today talking with me is Katreni Maticce from Russia. And she's an ambassador of the Gene Keys and a human design genius, I'm going to say, because she really understands so much about what is happening from that point of view. So bringing our minds together, I feel that we are going to be sharing with you some really innovative and pioneering ideas. So I'm going to begin just by sharing a vision that I had, which came in 2017 after I noticed that 3 of the Goddess Asteroids were crossing the Galactic Centre. So I'm just going to share this astrology chart. So for some people who do human design, I know introducing astrology could be like, oh, whoa. But the reason I'm doing it is it's because it's really hard to show this, what was happening, through any other system but astrology. And I do also feel that when you look at human design, astrology together, if you kind of know enough, you can start to synthesize that information. So what we have here, if we look up at the 10th house, and this is Imbolc, 2nd of February 2017, that these goddesses with Saturn, they're all in Sagittarius, and they, as I say, they're crossing the Galactic Centre. So to say a little bit about these, because some of you may not be familiar with the Goddess Asteroids. So Juno is the goddess of the sacred marriage. So she is about honouring. She's about honouring ourselves, honouring the divine feminine, honouring the divine masculine. And we live in these times where, you know, it's really, gender is one of the biggest changes that is taking place. And Juno is one of the bodies that is influencing that. Then we have Astraea, and she is a goddess whose energies are said to have left at the end of the last golden age. And my feeling was that in 2017, this alignment was seeding a new kind of sensitivity to light frequencies. That is what a golden age is, in a way, energetically, is that we move from density into lighter and lighter ways of being. So we have Saturn there, the initiator, could also be the crone, and we have Hygeia, who is all about, her name comes from hygiene. She's a goddess of healing, and she's, one of her big things is about circadian rhythms, and our whole body is attuned to light frequencies, the day and night cycle, and also the cycle of the seasons, which we're going to look at in the chart that we talked about last time. So my vision that came was a very kind of Holy Grail from the story of Parsifal. where Parsifal is in the Grail castle, and he sees these maidens, one holding a cup, one holding a spear that is dripping blood into the cup, a spear of light. And he doesn't ask the question on this occasion, and the question is, who does the Grail serve? And the answer is, the Grail serves everyone. So it's a very Aquarian story, actually, the Grail story. So the Grail is of our times. And what came to me really strongly, though, is that the body is the Grail vessel. You know, the blood is part of this Grail vessel, and this is what we are preparing as we go into this mutation time. This is part of the pressure, is forcing us into this new way of being. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that, and then do you want to say anything on that, Katreni, on those goddesses, or no? Okay, so we'll jump ahead here. So I'm taking you on to, this is Kim Gould's site, Taraka. You can see I've called this the Grail Maidens. Now, when we go back to the chart we left off on last time, you'll see how this really ties in, because the sun and the earth are in the cross of the Sphinx here. And you were going to say something about the nodes here as well, Katreni. Do you want to say that now or later on?
Maybe I will add that the cross of the Sphinx is about direction, and it kind of directs us through the wheels and the seasons and the transit itself, and it's kind of so-called the locks. And the nodes are playing big role, and it will be clear when I'm going to talk further on. And it's about the gene keys 4037, which is of our time, and 5955 of the time that's coming. Okay.
Okay. So so I just wanted to point out, I don't know how well you can see this. So what you get on Taraka is you get all your goddess asteroids. Oh, sorry. I clicked on you by mistake earlier. Very random, strange thing to do. Okay, so so what you can see here is, as I say, this was Imbolc 2017. We've got Juno is in gate 10, in design gate 34. We've got Astraea crossing the Galactic Centre in gate 11, and in design gate 1. And then we have Hygeia here is in gate 26 and in design gate 1. So what was really unusual and phenomenal as well is that these three goddess asteroids actually stayed together, you know, until I've got the last date. They're kind of within a 10-degree orb as 27th of April 2018. So just a huge amount of time they were in this kind of energy seed bubble, which is what a conjunction is, like a seeding energy. And what's interesting about the end of them being together is that at that point Juno crosses over that point at the end of the zodiac, 29 degrees Pisces, into 0 degrees Aries. So this is a huge place of new beginnings, which we will also see in the chart. Okay, so Do you want to bring up the one we were on last time, and I'll just say a little bit about how I feel the goddess asteroids relate to that. Have a glug of tea.
Would you like this picture, or you mean this one?
Either one. This is fine. Yeah. So you can see up there, right at the top, gate 10. You can see gate 11 and 26. So this is the part of the chart where those goddess asteroids were sitting. And then they've traveled all the way around in this kind of year and a bit to the spring equinox point here. So what is quite amazing to me is, which I didn't know until today, is that in the human design chart, the conjunction begins and ends at really significant points. And I really see the connection to Hygeia through, this is all about the shift in changing energies. It's a much more detailed than you get just through the zodiac. It gives you so much more like special information looking at the HD gates. But we can see here this thing about attunement to a natural cycle. And all of this is controlled through the relationship of the sun and the earth. And this is what our bodies are, basically billions and billions of biological clocks. Our whole body, every cell is running on a biological clock. And it's almost actually like a tidal system. When we go to sleep, certain things are happening, and when we wake up, it all reverses direction. So there's this beautiful flow, and this is what Hygeia is urging us to live in a sacred union, really, with the sun and the earth. And then Juno seems so present also, just through, the whole I Ching is about yin and yang and their relationship together. All these 64 keys are different relationships of yin and yang. And we're always seeking that kind of inner balance of yin and yang, which then would manifest in the sacred relationship. Yeah, look at that. So yeah, and Astraea seems, all the reason why we do this human design, gene keys, astrology, is we're trying to raise our frequency. And this is what I feel Astraea is all about. She's all about that raising of frequency, the light, the quality of light within the body is really important. So I'm going to hand over to Katreni now. I've done the astrology bit, and see how she kind of takes that up, bits of it, and continue on with where we left off last week. Thanks, Katreni.
Thank you, Alison. I hope we're gonna have some dialogue, and so pause me sometimes, and I also will ask you questions around. Yeah, beautiful. I've just started to study asteroids, and they're fascinating for me. In human design, we work with main planets, and well, they're quite, how to say, patriarch, most of it, like the energy of it is represented by big giants, and like maybe even Alison would add to that something, but asteroids are fascinating because for me they represent the mythological part and the most of names of the asteroids are from goddesses. And for me, that brings us into a bit different story and into the body mythology. And in human design, we say we're like living our mythology. So for me, it's not some esoteric part or some mythology of the homogenized history. For me, this is something meaningful. The asteroids, like I talk about my personal investigation now, is this everyone know about the asteroid belt, for example, which is present in our solar system. And for me, that's kind of, there is this dispersion of the container I can relate and embody even more between the personal planets and collective planets. This is exactly where asteroid belt is. And for me, there's these connectors between the personal and collective, and they also give me an additional container to kind of grow matter or embody. And anyway, also in human design, we talk about the coming mutation, and in human design, there are godheads, so to say, and we say that, and the godheads are programmed, and the godheads are named after also mythological and personas or gods. And we say that we are kind of here to experiment with human design, so we are not controlled by program, we're not controlled by godheads and the genetic imperative. And for me, the asteroids and is a bit different program, and it's kind of sneaked into my experiential place, and I'm just enjoying them, and they make so much sense for me. And yeah, so I would love to welcome the three goddesses. And yeah, and also for those who are in advanced human design, we together with Alison, we are 4 base. So there is this I design kind of stream into our interaction. So we're kind of not belonging to like super particular system, or even if we belong, we like to design our own thing. So that's what we do for those who are kind of are questioning what's going on here. So this is it. We're designing according to our base, and we enjoy our weaving together. And yeah, would you like to add about the patriarch matriarch part, Alison?
Yeah, definitely, because I think that you know, how I've been on the sort of trail of these goddess asteroids about 15 years, and they are really good at, firstly, through the mythology, understanding like where the wounds lie in the patriarchal way that has come about. You know, there's Ceres' wound, there's Persephone's wound. Not all the goddesses are wounded. You know, some like Hygeia actually received a transmission from her father Asclepius. So he had other daughters like Panacea. So some of them have positive stories, but most of them have some like, you know, edginess and some deep wounding around patriarchal things and what happened to those characters. So the goddesses are really about rewriting the mythology for me, and maybe that's also part of being a 4th base, is I don't just accept it how it is, you know. Juno is not the tortured wife. Well, she can be if you want her to be. But when you learn to really honor yourself, and then you can be in the sacred relationship. So you work with the archetype and transform it, and as I say, rewrite the story. So I see them as the way out of karma as well. You know, often in astrology, I don't know how this is in human design, but it's actually very hard to change our patterns. You know, we're really quite stuck with them. And what I find is these goddess asteroids, they open doors that give us another way of perceiving, doing. Yeah, they're very interesting, and like you say, they are this bridge between the personal and transpersonal. So they're really of our times, I feel. You know, this is their time to help us make that change in our whole way of being. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah. I will add to those who are kind of not familiar with asteroids, why they're important. Like, for example, they're asteroids, they go also with trans-Neptunian objects and with dwarf planets. And, you know, some of it like Aries or Chiron, those who are in human design, pretty much familiar with that. And their same significance as Pluto, they're kind of made out of the same matter, those dwarf planets. And for me, it's the dwarf planets that appeared and then invited asteroids, like the dwarf planets, those like after the Pluto belt, like around that area. And then they kind of brought us somewhere in the middle into this belt. That was my story with them. So yeah, let's see where it goes together with us. We were talking with Alison before the meeting, and like I had some inspiration about this, what I found out personally about the rhythms and Hygeia and the program, because as we were saying the last time, the sun goes like this through all the 64 gene keys, and the programming partner, the Earth, is the opposite side. So they travel, and this is so-called pulse in gene key or transit weather in human design, because sun is a star, so it kind of programs us through the neutrino stream, and it's like main programming object. So they program us. And I want to go today into the program, what this program is about. But before that, I want to say that there is a program, but something for me cracked here when I started to go into the trigrams and into the elements. You could see here that there is certain natural elements, and I will switch into another picture. Okay, here. So all the 64 are made out of 8 elements by 8 elements. So this is earth, mountain, abyss or the river, the wind, the thunder, fire, lake, and heaven. So, and I investigate with my Russian community group, like we go into the practice, we work with elements. For example, now we're in the 56 gene keys, and it consists of fire element and the mountain, which is certain archetypes of keys. For example, mountain is about stress, restraint, and stillness, about 52nd, and the fire is about the 3rd gene key, which is a double trigram, which is about desire, lightness, and rapture. So you know that the hexagram is made out of 2 elements, which are trigrams. So when I work on this micro level, not so micro, but still micro level, and I work with elements, which are the trigrams, my body really gets this imagery, and it really feels those elements, like like we know the tradition of 5 elements in Buddhist, or like in Asian. And there is this cracking of the program I feel with this natural flow. So when I go not just with the programming of the Godheads or the hexagrams or even like the gene keys, but I go with elemental, there is something different happening. And what I wanted to say. The mountain just flew out of my mind by the element. Okay, maybe I will remember what I was saying. Alison, tell me. I was leading to this seasonal. Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to present like one of my breakthrough of why it's not the same as program when I leaving out the transit, why it's not programming when I work with elements, because you could see, for example, that everything starts with the earth. So we start with this receiving, and it's not about grounding. The earth is about finding our orientation into the unknown, in the yin, in the form. And it's kind of a recreational cycle, a seasonal cycle. And I will show you like what I saw. So we start with this orientation and finding ourselves within the form. And when we do that, the mountain appears, which is an archetype of stability. We find stability in the form, we find restraint, and we find our like mountain shape, like experience of being still. Out of the stillness, we go into the river element, and it's about the river which flows, and it's an archetype of the 29 gene key, which is about saying yes to the experience. So only after we're still, we can respond to any experience in a clean and clear way, meaning we're not hesitating near the banks of the river, but we go into the abyss, which is another name for the river. After the river goes wind, and it's like the primordial waters. When the primordial waters of the earth are formed, there is Hygeia within that brings the oxygen. The oxygen comes and it brings the wind onto the surface of the water. That brings clouds and thunder. The thunder strikes the earth and it brings fire. And then there is like a different water formation of the lake. And it's about vitality. So I would say that lake, which is a 58 gene key, it's about vitality of all the living creatures, of the initial spark of life. We know that 58 gene key in human design in the root center, and the root center is about the spark, the engine that sparks the life within, like it's our root chakra. So the lake is an element of this vitality of the form. And the heaven, the opposite, you could see the earth and heaven, yin and yang. And the yang is the heaven, is like when everything is stabilized, and there is this creativity and freshness, and the cycle from entropy to freshness to beauty, which is, for example, represented by the first gene keys. So this is like when I start to work with my body and with elements, and not so much even with the spectrum of gene keys, I found out this seasonal, and within seasonal, this elemental flow, and of this initial 8 elements. And you could see that the elements, like now we're in the 8 weeks of the mountain, we're in the 56, and the lower trigram of it stays the same. It's the mountain, and then comes the river. So we're like, for 2 months we experience these elements while the upper trigram changes, kind of, but we kind of grounding these 8 elements. You can see mountain, river. Okay, 57, it's the wind. Then comes winter, comes heaven. After heaven comes the lake. After lake comes fire, the quarter of initiation. After fire comes thunder, and then the earth. And so it is the 8 elements forming each for 2 months approximately. And so we go. So there is this program, okay? We have in human design, I will show you now this picture of, we have Godheads, which are the duality system, which is kind of represented by the 2 lines, which is a binary. It's the trinary made, a trigram made the 8 elements, but the binary is this code. I will also show you how it's connected to genetics, but there is this program, so to say, of Godheads, which are basically the genetic imperative, which is forcing us to move through these quarters, through the seasons, by fulfilling certain functions like reproduction, initiating with the mind, like building the civilization. So this is like homogenizing program, and homogenizing is not bad, but it can strip, like our mind is homogenized. There is no person with a unique mind, otherwise he would speak language that never exists and we would never understand. To communicate, we need to have a homogenized mind, in the sense that we use the same kind of homogenized codes, but we can use them uniquely. And so I'm trying to also pierce like certain people in human design and maybe in asteroid, maybe it's not clear, but we can have our notes and maybe ask questions after that. So I want to show you mostly the logic of certain things and certain insights, rather than going into complex study material. So yeah, would you like to ask Alison something or add to that?
Just that I haven't ever seen that before, you know, that we're now in the mountain hexagrams, and we'll go into the river hexagrams, and you know, that's a wonderful way to actually live your life, you know, to spend that mountain time really connecting to mountains. And we've actually been doing that a bit unconsciously, haven't we? Because we've been talking about the Urals. If you didn't see Mother Siberia and Gene Key 34, which is our first conversation, it's so amazing about the shamanic tradition that emanated from there. And I live in Britain, in the Pennine. They're more hills than mountains, really. But there is a connection with the shamanic tradition that came all the way over. So yeah, even without trying, I've actually been quite in that mountain energy, and yeah, that's really wonderful. So, but I'd quite like to use that consciously in this next cycle as well, you know. So, yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
Yes, exactly. Consciously, like I've experienced that people who are kind of not aware of that, or I mean, all of us, the mountain is a double trigram of 52nd gene key, which is all about stress. So people during these 8 weeks, they're pressured into something. And if we know that this is an element of the mountain, so it's a shadow frequency, the stress. So most of people in the end of the summer, now the period, we kind of stressed and we are pushed to manifest. This is the throat gates, and go into action from the mind. Or before 4 weeks of that, we are kind of cannot root ourselves, cannot stable, and we want to do something. And the program helped us to work on the fields during this time, but now it's not about working in the fields, it's a bit different time. So if the program before helped us to survive and it pressured us now to be in a stress, so to say, in the shadow frequency, or I would say in the binary frequency of mind, which says, okay, I have to do something now, I have to push my projects, I have to build communities, I have to build civilization, this is the quarter of civilization, and so on and so forth. Knowing what this element actually about, we can use mountain as, okay, I actually have to restrain now, I actually have to collect my root energy to then express myself and go into some different kind of work. For example, 56 and 33 is a stop codons. So now we're in the week of the stop codon, where we can get distracted, shadow frequency, or we can go into the enrichments, which is folding of our elements back into the body and have a full stop. Because stop codons or terminator codons in genetics and human design, as describes, it's a stop after the genetic sentence is finished. So this is what makes punctuation 56 and 33. So for example, this I want to talk as well. We have this period of the quarter of civilization, which ends in the 33 before the 7. The gate of the cross of the Sphinx we talked about last time starts a new quarter. So we have a full stop and we have a retreat and we have a remembering of ourselves. If we were living this mountain, if we were really restrained and embodied and use this time and energy of fuel to really kind of become a mountain rather than the mountain that tries to find Muhammad and kind of make him do things. We are the mountain. So, and we searching for the retreats and the remembering, and before we enter the new quarter of relationship here. So it's I've made it a bit long, but this seems important in accordance with asteroids and goddesses, which kind of, I feel, opening up this elemental world, this nature world, and it's here as a program. And if you want, it's here as a synchronization with your unique experience within the body, and body is what is unique, because we have all unique genetics and unique imprints, unique body graphs. So here I will make a puncture also.
Can I just add something, because it's really amazing what you're saying, because this is precisely the effect that embodying these goddesses, especially Hygeia, has had on me, to start living from my body rather than my mind. I actually have that 52 in the gene keys. It's my vocation, and and I really feel that time stress very badly. And yeah, I mean, if I think about how I used to do things, is how a lot of the world do things, really, is kind of feel this panic about earning money and getting my stuff out there and get on social media and create some events and blah, 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 all the time feeling more and more stressed. So that's actually the energy you're sending out into the world, is stress. Whereas now, I just trust that I can go for, like today, this morning, it's a working day, and I went for a walk for 4 hours. Went and played in the river, walked actually up quite a steep mountain. and I feel that some people would say, oh, what a slacker. You should be kind of working. But to me, I'm rooting myself in my body, and I'm gathering earth energy. I'm giving the earth energy, and she's giving energy to me. So we're in this kind of flow. So by the time I get back, I'm feeling great. And then I do my Facebook event, and I think it would have more good energy in it, because it's not got that kind of panic, stress behind it. And it is the mind that kind of, wants to create in that way. Because the mind's very linear, so it's like, well, how can going for a 4-hour walk help your business? But it works for me, that's all I can say. And I do feel, I trust that, because I feel that this is what these goddess asteroids are trying to say to people, like, stop stressing, get connected to the earth. And everything else will fall into place when you do that. It's almost like you align with this model and it all clicks into place, and there's a tremendous sense of security that comes from that. So I'll hand back over.
Yes, that's pretty profound, this simplicity and this human condition of stress, which is like all the time there in the background, wherever we are. And yeah, this, we cannot escape the program because we are the program. It's a bit complex terminal, like it needs some opening up, which I'm not going to do that now. But it's, we are here controlled by the program. And also we are not here to be controlled by the program. How to say? Our mind, if it's controlled by the program, it's really brings stress and it creates a homogenized experience. But if our body is controlled by the program within the elemental and it's conscious, when our unconscious body made conscious, because we cannot escape that the sun is here and that it brings this slower triagram of mountain, we can use it. And it's about, okay, actually my body says to me this now, because this is genetics. I want to show you another picture. So here is a wheel, and here is all the amino acids that go. We are like now in a stop codon, as I've said, of the 56. So it's all a genetic sequence. And if we go, here is a genetic letter. So it's GAU, uracil, on all this kind of words. I'm not going to go now. But we can go, we know that each gene key has a line. Each gene key has also division into 6 lines, which is a hexagram basically. And we could see that it's a binary code. So it's 0101, which is yin yang, yin yang, yin yin in a certain sequence, and it's all perfect thing. So if the mind is switched by this, like the transits influence our chemistry and our genes, which our genes produce, like it's a micro level, but then it goes into the different holographic levels. So it's the chemistry of our body. So the transit weather influence the chemistry of our body in a certain configurations for everyone uniquely, but also for the collectively, it brings some collective themes as well. And if mind makes decisions out of this kind of homogenized frequency, it's one experience. But if we kind of use it as a preparing for the weather, like Ra used to say, you know it's going to rain, so you bring up your umbrella. So it's kind of, it's not about control, but you kind of can use the energy, but also you can use not only the energy in this kind of strategic way, but you can ground into the 8 basic elements and kind of see their logic and embrace it and enjoy, because as I said, we cannot escape it. We're not here to be controlled by it, because we are it. It's kind of a pretty simple, though it's a koan, but it's pretty simple to see. And one other important thing I want to mention about that is about mind, because we have this tendency of kind of belittling mind, and mind is great. Mind is not here to be influenced by the program if it's grounded in the body. And how to say, it's not about dissolving mind within the body, it's about understanding what mind is. And the other thing, it's kind of a quality of the mind, and why we actually now not in the mountains with Alison, having our precious time with circadian rhythms and doing all this strange, very mind kind of mechanical stuff, is that why it's important for me, because mind won't let go until you know stuff. Mind cannot let go of things until it knows. This is a very important phrase, and this is what we're doing here. We show the mind so it can see, and then it can let go. And these systems like Gene Keys in Human Design, or like investigating, going to the asteroids and astrology as well, because astrology is great for me in regarding cycles. I like Human Design more regarding because it shows synthesis and the body. astrology as well, but it's more, for me, it's also about showing the mind, educating the mind, so it lets go finally. It's not about like growing the brain, but for me, it's about letting go. I know the mechanics, so I can let go because I kind of know what's going on, and then I can merge within experiential rather than thinking, because these two cannot happen simultaneously. I kind of experience and I absorb, or I think. These are two modalities. And yeah, so this phrase, mind doesn't go until it knows, leads to that we are not here to be controlled by the program, because we are the program. So it's like not to be controlled by our own mind, which the program still kind of influence to make us follow certain cycles so we survive as a species. And this leads us to what we're actually talking about, the mutation, because mutation, what will happen after 2027 and why these 7 years are important is we're slowly letting go of the program, and the program is slowly letting go from, like, it's kind of is not going to be interested in us anymore. And this is kind of a dramatic thing, because things are collapsing as we see it, but it's also a freedom smile we could experience, because mind, so to say, strategic mind, seven-centered mind of this patriarch in a bad sense mind starts to deteriorate, and there is a drama because we may not know how to operate relying on outer authorities like politics, culture, shops, schedules of buses and planes, and like pandemics. But we have to go into our grail, into our body, and find our inner authority. This is what's happening, and this is crucial to find your inner truth, which is the body, within the body, uniquely during this 7-year cycle. Because after that, the program not interested and not going to help us. And yeah, this is what kind of sequel to what I want to go on further into the program. But now I pause. And Alison, what are your words?
Well, I feel this G center very much as like an inner compass, but a really amazing inner compass that when you trust your body and your intuition, you just know what the next step is, and it might not be logical at all, but when you take that step, you start to see the magic unfolding. So yeah, I mean, it's also interesting. This is always the big question as astrologers. It's like, how much can we control fate? How much is in our hands? How much is out of our hands? And in some ways, this is why I think the Goddess Asteroids really interest me and appeal to me, because they do seem to offer us some kind of way of working with, or getting out of the negative streams or patterns. It's like they help us create new patterns. And when you say we are the program, well, if we are the program, and we are in the holograph, then a change that we make must affect the rest of the hologram. So in that sense, I think there's a logical basis for saying when we move from, say, the shadows into the gifts in that Gene Keys language, and then the cities, boom, we can affect thousands of people. So yeah, but I think we are in for stormy times. you know, when I kind of tune into it, I don't think, you know, we've had Freedom Day in Britain yesterday, which was kind of bizarre because it feels like most people still feel really in that pandemic mode, you know, and so even though the government said it's over, the people clearly don't think so. Um, yeah, so, but it feels like it's not all going to go back to normal now, you know, it's all going to be fine. Um, you know, I think we're in for like difficult times ahead as human beings, and so I think what we're trying to do here is kind of look at things in this in-depth way to come up with ideas of how we're going to work with these energies as we approach 2027. Try not to panic, because it's 6 years away now, isn't it? It's like, oh wow, yeah.
Yes, we're right on fire of human experience, and it's after 2027, it's not going to be what we thought of it. It's going to be a completely different frequency and cycle. So there is like, and it's going to be a shocking experience and kind of abruption of the cycle of the mind, which mind kind of created. Okay, science, we go to Mars, we go here and there, but what happens is like completely different story. And I guess we're gonna see. And I agree about the steps the body makes, because body knows and mind doesn't know what happens the next minute. Yes, that's that's strong. And I wanted to say something about raising frequency, because we cannot raise our frequency by effort. Raising the frequency is the yin quality, and this I want to show that it's part of the program. So we have this, everyone knows this yin yang, and we have half of the quarter, half of the wheel with 2 quarters of civilization and duality within the yin, and it starts with the yin yin yin, the second jinki is until the first jinki. So this is the yin flow, and this is the yang flow. And what happens within the program is that this yang quarter and the quarter of mutation programmed by Sirius, yan yan, yan yan, like it's all yan, it's kind of deteriorating. It's a bit more complex cosmology information, but I wanted to say that it's also part of the program that the frequency of yang going to become like underneath yin now, and it dissolves, like it all becomes yin. And yin, as I've said, it's not the ground like a mountain where we can have stability. Yin is this hexagram with completely nothing in its axis. It's not the ground. The earth is orientating in the unknown, and this is what's coming. There are no yang things to kind of find stability on, or find new creativity. It's kind of the era of the yang creative fertility is also going to slowly deteriorate, but this is a further on regarding global cycles will be evident. So yeah, yin, raising the frequency is about finding orientation in the unknown, and this is only possible if we are familiar and if we are the body. And when we are the body, this is the receptive, and receptive is opposite to strategic. Strategic wants to survive. A receptive knows death. It knows cycle. It doesn't afraid of death. This is a different approach to the coming times of chaos, of climate change, of people dying because of the immune system deteriorating together with fertility, fertility levels also of humanity obviously going down, and they will go down very, very quickly after 2027. So, yeah, this is something to think about, or rather, yeah, let go of the strategic in a sense of realizing there is no choice but to be receptive and not trying to survive, but live every moment, every day, and being the body experiencing life. Because in the time of chaos and fear, there is a strategic mind that makes even more chaos and more fear. And it's not going to win, and it will not lead anywhere. So finding receptivity and understanding that the coming times is not about more complex strategic and policies and kind of stiffing us structures, but it's about letting go of even the desire to survive in a strategic way. So we living our cycle within the cycle of life, death, life, and it's a continuous journey. And this is something actually which leads me to mention one thing here, which is perfectly said by Richard Roth about the reincarnation cycle. He has a video on YouTube on reincarnation, and he mentions very important cross of the 4 ways, which is 44, look here, 19 here, 24 here, and 33 here. And these are the keys which finish every quarter. So we start with the Sphinx from the 7, and we go here and we go into the Synarchy. Boom, closing of the quarter. Boom, Sphinx, it's opening the quarter and finishes with the 19. So this is this cross of the 4 ways is kind of realizing the reincarnation as well. This is something that popped up during the deep dive activation sequence, and Richard presented this cross and its kind of profound meaning, because these are the doors, yeah, they're closing and they're kind of the portals, and those keys are, for me, they bring realization of what it's also about, this non-strategic, receptive, and reincarnation cycle. If you want to watch this brilliant video of Richard, and I will mention just quickly how we're closing here. And we start with a quarter of duality of the 7 of the certain direction into the future, and we come up with a synarchy or interference. Like we interfere with the process of dying and the process of mutation and the process of structures collapsing, or we go into the teamwork and we find synergy. What comes next with the closing of winter time, seasonal thing, and the quarter of mutation, we go into the 19. This is a sacrifice. You remember the doll? In many traditions, we sacrifice in the end of the winter to welcome spring, the big fire, we do this sacrifice. And here we find in the times of change where we don't want to raise the frequency or like surrender into the high frequency. It's about yielding into the high frequency, not like strategically stretching it like like a head, too small head on a head. It's like, oh, I'm yielding into that. So it's about codependence we find ourselves in, or sacrifice in the meaning of sacrificing our lower nature, sacrificing our resistance, sacrificing our strategic way of being. And then we go into the silence. When we do that, when the old self and these structures that are not anymore suiting us, suiting our freedom, suiting our transparency, our intimacy, our evolved body, our human intransitus vehicle of 9 centers. When we sacrifice all the old stuff, we go into the silence. And these are the programming partners, as you remember, all these crosses. So the silence of synarchy, synarchical silence. It's like, and the example metaphor for it is bees, for example. They're buzzing and they're synarchical around the queen. They have circular hierarchies or heterarchies. And there is a silence as a common action underneath of the underneath structures that kind of creates all the thing. And when we synarchically merge into silence, the new structure is going to appear with this quarter of civilization. And 24 prepares us with the gift of invention. Or if we stay in the old structural strategic mindset and strategic collective dependency, codependency on what's ever going on and its change, then there is interference, codependence, and addiction to that. We cannot let go. We're addicted to that. We're addicted that we have a coffee in a shop nearby. And when the cross of planning is finished, there won't be coffee in a coffee shop because the contract's going to break. There won't be a farmer in Ethiopia bringing coffee on time, so there is no coffee. All these complex economy structures are going to deteriorate, and we're going to see that. And so are we in addiction with that? It's time to see that, or we become inventive according to our unique needs of the body, and we find our synarchy, we find our group of people with whom we understand each other in silence without words, through the heart. And then we go into the 33 witches, revelation, and all together as a group we're gonna reincarnate into this new mutational cycle, global cycle, as a revelation or as a forgetting. So we kind of forget into the old things and we disappear with the old. Or there is mindfulness, which is kind of being within retreat of oneself and respecting the retreats, the retreat of the body, of the vehicle, of the other. And there is like a revelation as a new we energy of the era of the individual. In the era of the individual where we're coming as we, and we can do that. So these are the frequencies, and this is our so-called cross of the 4 ways, which is okay, what way do you choose? Which shadow, which CD do you choose? And these are important cross, which is kind of very intimate with the cross of the 4 ways of the Sphinx, which start, and this one is closing each quarter. This kind of popped up before the meeting, and I find it's super important to mention. I don't know how time is it now, Alison?
We're at 1 hour 33 minutes. So, is that our stop code on? I think. Yeah. So it's always hard to stop, but we've got plenty of other opportunities to keep exploring all this, and it's really fascinating. Like two themes that are really big in my life, and I also see reflected around me, are the thing about developing synarchies and teamwork. I'm really enjoying a number of groups that I belong to where people are really wanting to move into that we rather than I energy, and explore that. Someone described it as the wavy line between I and we, and this is the line. This is this journey from personal to transpersonal, which the Goddess Asteroids are all about. That journey. And this other one is around death. You know, overcoming fear of death. And if you're watching this and you haven't watched Richard Rudd's Reincarnation series, he's done quite a lot with this other guy Chris as well. They're really fascinating, and they do really help you. It's exactly like you say. I love the way you say that, Katreni. It's like when the mind understands, then it can let go. And that's kind of what I feel the Reincarnation series has done for me. I kind of watched it, and it's like my mind went, yeah, it's okay. You're gonna die, it's fine. You know, just let that go, and just live in joyfulness, like right now in this moment, and give it some welly, as they say in Britain. In Yorkshire, give it some welly. So I want to thank everyone who's watching this, will watch it, and thank you so much, Katreni. I'm really enjoying these conversations, and I just feel like my mind is growing. It's like, I love this. I just love this kind of being on the edge of exploration. It just really, it hits my sweet buttons. So thank you.
Yeah, I would like to finish with the 24, which is important for me for some reason, and this part of the silence and the 4 ways and the reincarnation. And it's pretty much this hexagram, this jinky gate in human design is about this Delphi, and Delphi, the oracle, and it says, know thee self. It doesn't say feel the self, it says know thee self. And so this is, yeah, homage to the mind, and to the silence it can bring, and to the invention it can bring, and how we can go of addiction and ground ourselves. Yeah, know the self from here on. Let's see what other meetings gonna, because this was unexpected, and so there's pretty much to dive into the sweetness of global cycle. And yeah, thank you, Alison, and everyone who watched this video. Please share your questions and concerns. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If you write questions on the YouTube channel, we will try and answer them in subsequent ones. And yeah, I'll also post some things I wrote in 2017 from my blog about if you want to read more about what was going on that year. Okay, so farewell.